Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are strapping in for a journey into the moral abyss of late 1930s Europe.
It's a world that, as one critic put it, was once the special property of authors like Eric Ambler and Graham Greene.
Absolutely. This is the era of shifting loyalties, palpable danger, and that slow, inevitable creep toward global conflict.
And we are focused, well, relentlessly focused on a very specific, pressurized time frame.
Yeah.
Late autumn 1937, and we're tracking events as they lead into the violent spring of 1938.
Our sources are zeroing in on the Soviet intelligence apparatus, but not as some unified front.
No, not at all. They show it as a site of brutal internal civil war. You have competing factions of the NKVD and the GRU just going at each other's throats.
So this is espionage turned inward.
Completely. The deadliest enemy is the man who's supposed to be sharing your ideology.
So our mission for you today is to dive into this murky period through the eyes of one man, André Szara.
Right. And he is a Pravda foreign correspondent, an intellectual, a Russian widower.
And he starts this deep dive believing he is a well-placed, if, compliant journalist.
He very quickly discovers that his whole intellectual life is just a flimsy curtain. And behind it, he's been living in the deep waters of clandestine intelligence all along.
And his survival, maybe the survival of others, is going to hinge on how he handles one initial action.
A seemingly innocuous request for a small favor.
Which, of course, rapidly escalates into a matter of life or death. It completely redefines his role from just an observer to, well, a designated operative.
The sources give us this incredible, almost cinematic evocation of pre-war Europe. Political lines are being drawn not just between nations, but between cliques. The kvost within the Soviet bureaucracy itself.
It proves that the domestic purge has absolutely bled out onto the European continent.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Our journey starts not in some grand capital, but on the North Sea, late November 1937.
Off the coast of Ostend, Belgium, we are starting on a very lonely tramp freighter.
That freighter is the Nicaea. It's 6,320 gross tons, registered in Malta, but chartered by Export Club, the Soviet Grain Trading Bureau.
And the scene is just... It's a rainy, cold night. The vessel is meant to be hauling legitimate cargo.
Right. Things like Anatolian wheat, dried figs, flaxseed.
But the very presence of this ship and its illicit consignment, it just immediately sets the tone for these global, illicit Soviet operations.
We really need to pause on that cargo manifest because it speaks volumes about the level of tradecraft involved here.
It really does, because alongside those mundane agricultural goods, the sources confirm two incredibly sensitive items hidden in the hold.
What are they?
First, we have a steel drum of a mining explosive.
Clearly meant for sabotage or, a terrorist cell.
Yeah, one operating in Hamburg. And then, far more sophisticated, there's a metal trunk.
And inside.
Recently copied engineering blueprints for an Italian submarine torpedo.
Wow.
These plans had been meticulously copied at a naval research station in Brindisi.
Which highlights the fact that these intelligence services, even while they're destroying themselves from the inside, are still prosecuting this sophisticated global intelligence war against Western powers.
Exactly. Who charters dried figs alongside high explosives and cutting-edge torpedo blueprints?
The Soviet state in 1937, apparently.
So Szara, our journalist, is one of only two passengers who disembarks the Nicaea.
The other is a Comintern official using a Dutch alias, Van Doorn. And the setup begins the moment Szara is approached on the dockside.
He's approached by a man described with this remarkable specificity. He's called the world's plainest man.
The world's plainest man.
He is so unremarkable, so perfectly average in his height, his suit, his face, that he becomes, in his own way, instantly memorable and entirely forgettable at the same time.
That is next-level tradecraft.
Yes. And this operative, who we later learn is working for the counterfaction led by General Bloch, asks Szara for that seemingly small favor.
And the favor is simple. Find out where his fellow passenger Van Doorn is staying in Ostend and leave a note for someone named M. Brune.
Right. And Szara, he realizes the man is clearly apparatchik, but he doesn't know which apparatchik exactly, so he obliges.
But this compliance, it has deep roots in his survival instinct, doesn't it?
Oh, it does. Szara later reflects that he might have been able to say no, but the cost of noncompliance in 1937, especially for someone in his exposed position as a foreign correspondent.
It was execution.
It was execution. He's a compliant intellectual, and he chooses the path of least initial resistance.
Which, as always, leads to the greatest danger. And that danger immediately manifests in his fellow passenger.
Yes, so we should identify the victim. Van Doorn, whose real name is Grigory Khalidze, is not just some random Comintern official.
No, he's a piece of the internal Soviet power structure, and his identity is what makes his murders so significant.
Khalidze is described as a faddish man who desperately fancied himself a ladies' man.
And crucially, he belongs to the powerful Georgian Furst.
The clique, the gang, led by Lavrenti Beria. And this faction was absolutely lethal because it was Stalin's preferred internal power base. It heavily favored individuals from the Transcaucasian region.
So we're talking Georgians, Armenians, Russified Greeks, and Turks.
Right. Stalin, of course, was himself a Georgian from Gori. This clique understood the leader's personal idiosyncrasies, his language, his cultural background, and therefore they held this tremendous, often arbitrary power inside the party and the services.
So when Khalidze is targeted, it's not just a killing, it's a shot fired directly at Beria's influence.
Exactly, which is why the stakes immediately soar for Szara.
So Khalidze's fatal indiscretion is born of his own vanity and drunkenness.
Pretty much. Szara, following his instructions, supplies the vodka and brandy. Khalidze gets sloppy. He starts boasting about his Ostend mistress, his perfect dumpling, he calls her.
And she's staying at the Hotel Gronendal.
She is. And Szara passes this specific, location-sensitive intelligence to M. Bren.
The consequence is immediate and brutal.
Szara is summoned later to the Hotel Gronendal, room 26. He finds Khalidze dead, slumped against the headboard.
Frozen in what the sources describe as a luxurious yawn, with his pants around his knees.
The forensic details are chilling, and they confirm Szara's deepest fears. The method of assassination leaves these yellow stains on Khalidze's face.
Which indicates hydrocyanic acid used as a fine spray.
Exactly. This wasn't a random mugging or some clumsy poisoning. This specific technique, the acid spray, was a known proprietary signature of the Soviet services for quick, silent elimination on foreign soil.
Szara instantly recognizes it.
He recognizes it as an NKVD killing, a signed NKVD killing. He knows the state has done this, and he knows he was the unwitting facilitator.
And the apparatus is already moving on. The sources introduce Renate Braun at the scene, the woman who summons Szara.
And she's cold, efficient, German, maybe Czech, maybe Austrian, clearly a highly organized operative for the faction that killed Khalidze.
And she executes the final critical step of Szara's favor. She searches the corpse.
This is where we see the immediate tradecraft in action. She doesn't just search his pockets. She slits seams, strips the man down, and finally, she finds a small, folded square of paper hidden in Khalidze's trouser cuff.
He knew he was carrying something vital. He prepared a desperate hiding spot.
He did. And that hidden object is the link between the murder and Szara's next phase.
It's a Czech railway baggage receipt.
It is. And Renate Braun hands it directly to Szara, declaring, "It is for you."
So the initial small favor, finding a location, is complete. But now Szara has been maneuvered into holding the ultimate physical evidence that was meant to be retrieved by the assassins.
He is now inextricably linked to the murder of a Beria operative. And he's holding a receipt for a mysterious high-stakes piece of luggage.
So Szara leaves Ostend carrying this receipt, and he's now fundamentally a witness and a participant in a high-stakes political murder. The apparatus that saved him now owns him.
And the moment he realizes he is exposed, beyond redemption, certainly beyond any official cover, that hits him in Antwerp.
He calls his editor Nishenko. He's hoping, maybe naively, that the Ostend assignment was somehow authorized.
That phone call is just pure political horror. Nishenko's voice over the long-distance line is strained. He uses zero pleasantries. Szara asks about a trusted colleague, Pavel Mikhailovich.
And Nishenko's reply is instantaneous and coded.
Pavel Mikhailovich isn't here anymore.
And that phrase, "isn't here anymore," is the brutal immediate code for.
Taken away by the security services. That colleague has been liquidated or arrested.
And the warning is doubled immediately.
Yeah, Nishenko delivers the second message. People have been asking for you.
So the apparat isn't just aware of Szara. The official higher-level organs of the NKVD are actively looking for him.
And Nishenko was clearly not advised of Szara's secret work with the world's plainest man. Szara realizes the crushing severity of it all. The Ostend hit was part of an unauthorized high-stakes operation carried out by a rival faction against Khalidze, a man protected by Stalin's Kvost.
He is now caught between two absolutely powerful warring cliques, and he can't trust either of them.
Not at all.
This realization must be just psychologically devastating. He's an intellectual revolutionary, a man of words, now staring down state-sponsored murder. How does he process that existential panic?
He tries to process it by doing the only thing he knows.
Writing.
He attempts to draft a dispatch about the Belgian dock workers, but the words just fail him completely. He describes the effort as feeling like eating sand.
It's an exercise in futility. His intellectual life, his identity as a writer, has ceased to function.
Because the reality he is now inhabiting, espionage and internal murder, cannot be processed in newspaper prose.
And he engages in that specific Russian fatalism we see in the sources, doesn't he?
Yes, that self-deception that comes with compliance. He reflects on the Russian proverb, "You said you were a mushroom, that jump into the basket."
The idea being that once you admit or claim an identity, in this case an asset, a player in the great game, you have to accept the consequences.
Even if those consequences are fatal. He acknowledges he could always say no, but choosing compliance, choosing the road of maximum danger, is his form of existential agency.
So he buys a ticket for the Paris-Prague Express.
And the apparatus is already on him. He boards the train and realizes an entire first-class compartment has been reserved just for him.
And he's quickly approached by General Y.I. Block. This is where the game just enters the high-stakes stratosphere.
General Block is a figure of genuine terror in 1937. He's a GRU lieutenant general, so he's very high up in military intelligence.
And he's known by the nickname Yasharitsa.
The Lizard, due to his sharp, triangular, and often unsettlingly calm face. The sources make it very clear. Power people in Moscow, men who think they are secure, are afraid of Block. He represents a faction that is powerful, intellectual, and willing to take enormous risks.
Block immediately locks the compartment door and begins a conversation that's less an interrogation and more a philosophical testing of Szara's soul.
And he frames Szara's situation within the intelligence service's troubled autumn.
He deliberately references the recent devastating defections and murders that have exposed the rot within the Soviet services.
Oh, yeah. He names Colonel Alexander Orlov, who fled to the West with NKVD funds, Colonel Walter Krivitsky, who also defected and later spoke out.
And the brutal murder of Ignace Reiss in Switzerland.
These men were all high-ranking idealists who chose to break with Stalin. By citing them, Block is putting Szara right in the line of fire, suggesting this is the environment you are now in: betrayal, defection, and death.
But Block is testing more than just political loyalty. He's probing Szara's mental stability. He asks the ultimate fatalistic question.
And should it come your turn, then what?
And Szara gives the only reply possible to survive that moment.
Then that is how it will be.
Block then presses on the highly personal aspect of Szara's life, noting he is a widower, he has no family. He is sizing up Szara not as an asset, but as a potential martyr.
Yes, and here is the core of Bloch's manipulation, the moment he defines Szara's future role. He suggests that men without familial ties might be careless of their lives.
Because they have nothing to lose.
Exactly, which paradoxically makes them capable of the greatest acts.
It's a terrifying rationalization.
It is. Bloch asks if such men might rise to an opportunity, sacrifice themselves, perhaps to cure their nation of a great evil. And then we have a hero.
He is telling Szara implicitly, you are disposable, but your disposability makes you uniquely useful. He's outlining the ultimate, self-sacrificing, and deeply cynical role that Szara is expected to play.
A role in the counterfaction scheme to destabilize or check Stalin.
So Szara is being recruited not just for intelligence, but potentially as a political bomb, a fact that General Bloch frames as high literature.
Absolutely. He ends with a profound, controlling statement. To be a writer, that requires work and sacrifice, and the determination to follow a certain road wherever it may lead.
The intellectual freedom Szara cherished is gone.
Gone. He is now a designated player in a high-stakes, deadly internal game, and his new work is not journalism, but operational compliance, leading potentially to self-immolation.
Szara arrives in Prague carrying the railway receipt and, well, the weight of Bloch's expectations.
The train ride itself was a terrible preview of the coming storm. He witnesses a Jewish family desperately trying to board the train in Nuremberg, only to be chased down by police.
So he arrives in Prague under a light snow and a palpable thick climate of fear.
Prague in late 1937 felt like a city holding its breath before drowning. Hitler was roaring about Lebensraum, living space in the East.
And the Sudeten-German leader, Henlein, was pushing for manufactured persecution claims.
Every citizen knew the diplomatic maneuvering meant only one thing. The German tank division sitting on the border were coming soon.
The sources capture this atmosphere beautifully, noting the apprehension was visible in the way people looked at each other.
In the unfinished sentence hanging over every conversation.
It's the silent acknowledgement of abandonment.
And Szara's intellectual instinct urges him to write a story about this haunting of the city. He wants to capture the cowardly silence of European statesmen in the face of the Czech Republic's impending catastrophic abandonment.
But first, he has a package to retrieve.
He locates the station at the edge of the city. The baggage receipt leads him to the item, a leather portmanteau satchel.
Which had been deposited nearly 3 years earlier on February 8, 1935.
Think about the history embedded in that single receipt. A package abandoned 3 years ago is now the key to a 1937 purge operation.
And the satchel itself is a work of art. It's telling a story before it's even opened.
It speaks of a lifetime spent moving. It's made of dense, pebbled leather with fine hand-sewn seams. But the most remarkable detail is the lock.
A lock.
An ingenious, complicated Central Asian-style brass lock, adorned with this reddish tracery typical of Bokhara or Samarkand craftsmanship.
This immediately suggests the owner was an old-school revolutionary or officer.
Someone who spent considerable time in the Caucasus, Central Asia, maybe Persia. The only way to open it is to have a modern Czech locksmith defeat the ancient artisanal mechanism.
So once it's open, Szara inventories what the sources call the officer's estate. And it's not treasure.
No, it's the meticulously maintained belongings of a man who lived on the run.
You can see that sense of meticulousness in the clothing. Well-mended wool shirts, a thick sailor's sweater, darned socks with transparent heels.
These aren't the possessions of a wealthy defector. They are the necessities of a surviving idealist or a high-level operative in exile.
And then there are the tools of survival. He finds a pre-revolutionary Nagant 7.62 millimeter revolver, meticulously cleaned.
And the detail here is just fascinating. It is the defining forensic nugget that tells us everything about the owner's paranoia and discipline.
So the revolver is clean, well-oiled, and the lanyard ring has been filed off.
Right, but the crucial detail is how it was cleaned, with plain unmarked paper.
Why?
Because the owner was ensuring that no trace of dated newspaper could ever be found inside the barrel, which could potentially trace his movements or the time of his last use. This was the discipline of a soldier or a spy who knew the stakes of his profession.
The books reinforce this sense of a traditional intellectual in hiding.
Pre-revolutionary editions of Pushkin, Dobrylov's essays, Krug's poems, a civilian library for a man constantly muttering, clinging to the old Russian culture.
But perhaps the most evocative detail is the smell of the satchel itself.
The sources note this lingering, persistent odor. Mildew, wood smoke, the musk of pack animals, and spices like cloves or cardamom.
That smell places the owner squarely in the Transcaucasian district,
suggesting he was likely a loyal Tsarist soldier or a white guardist who died or disappeared well before 1935, leaving this key piece of historical cargo in the Prague station.
So the whole package is saturated with the scent of history, but the real secret is tucked away beneath a false bottom.
A false bottom which is crudely but determinedly resewn.
And inside?
Inside, Szara finally finds the prize that drove the whole bloody chase. A thick stack of grayish, frayed official paper from the Oprana, the Tsar's secret police.
Specifically, it's documentation from the Bureau of Information, 3rd Section, Department of State Protection, Transcaucasian District, Tbilisi.
After all the murder, the risk, the intrigue, Szara's initial reaction is disappointment. He just sees boring bureaucracy.
He dismisses it as a catalog of small deceits, a record of informer payments and agents provocateurs from the early 1900s.
Yeah, he expects revolutionary treasure or military secrets, and he gets paperwork. He drinks vodka to soothe his frustrated imagination.
But this initial disappointment is what allows him to survive.
Because he doesn't immediately grasp the catastrophic power of what he's holding.
Despite the crushing reality of his assignment, Szara still tries to function as a journalist. He writes his Silence in Prague dispatch.
That intellectual message to Moscow, calling out the cowardly silence of European statesmen, it's a defiant act of integrity.
But the tension is too high. He seeks refuge from his own mind.
He finds the Nakloka Luxuria, a classic European cabaret and night spot.
This is his emotional exile, his attempt to find a flicker of normal humanity before the inevitable destruction of Prague, or himself.
Precisely. He loses himself in the cabaret show and then finds a profound, if fleeting, human connection with one of the Anamirdammen, the hostesses, who wear these zebra masks.
He calls her Zebra.
Yeah, and they connect over their shared sense of impending doom, daring fate to interrupt their stolen pleasure. For Szara, This intimacy, playing the devil's own games in a secret room, is his last chance to assert his humanity before the state takes full control.
He's trying to create a memory to survive on.
That flicker of humanity is abruptly extinguished by the state apparatus. Szara receives the wire from Nijenko.
The silence in Prague story is rejected. A clear, cold sign of the party line overruling his intellectual honesty, and he's given a new mandatory mission.
Profile Dr. Julius Baumann, Salzburger 8, Berlin.
The transition from the intellectual freedom of Prague to the forced destination of Berlin is brutal.
But before he can even leave, the physical danger escalates from organized murder to just street violence.
In the Prague railway buffet, Szara is listening to a radio broadcast of Hitler. And the rhetoric is escalating. He's boasting.
I will destroy you, maneuver you into a corner where you cannot fight back.
And as Szara turns away from the broadcast, his expression of disgust is apparently visible to a man in the crowd.
That man, catching Szara's reaction, instantly assaults him, hits him in the head with a metal salt shaker concealed in his fist.
Screaming the slur, Jew shit.
It's a stark, shocking reminder that Szara's conflict isn't just about Soviet internal politics. It is tragically and violently physical, intersecting with the rising tide of European anti-Semitism and fascism.
So the journey to Berlin then becomes a full-blown assassination attempt. The express train is stopped suddenly near Dresden.
The conductor nervously informs Szara he must disembark. He is met by two men.
And one of those men is Ismailov, a high-ranking operative for the Georgian Kvost.
Kalidzi's vengeful allies. This is the faction Szara helped betray. Ismailov, a dark, bulky man, quickly forces Szara into a waiting car, producing handcuffs. Szara, terrified, tries to use his intellectual training to understand, asking,
Zato? What for?
Ismailov's answer is chilling, because it just eliminates all ideological pretense. He is utterly dismissive.
What does he say?
It isn't for anything, comrade. It's just one of those things that has to be done.
They drive out to a desolate farm track. Ismailov takes out a small automatic pistol, arms it, and positions himself behind Szara for the execution.
The Kvost is seeking revenge and tying up loose ends.
But Szara is no longer a loose end. He is the protected pawn of the counterfaction.
And his execution is dramatically foiled by the intervention of the Blockbraun faction.
A motorcycle screams down the track.
It's Heschel, the Luftmensch Gnome Szara briefly encountered in Ostend, and an accomplice. In a shocking, violent roadside execution, they shoot Ismailov and his son.
And Heschel stands over Szara, displaying that cold, humorous expression of the veteran survivor.
Reminding Szara, here is the world, and here we are in it.
Szara is rescued, terrified, but fundamentally he realizes the essential truth. He is under powerful, deadly protection.
And the Blockbraun faction desperately needs him alive for whatever endgame they have planned.
So, he arrives in Berlin under his cover identity, Grauenske, now focused on the mandatory assignment, profiling Dr. Julius Baumann. We need to understand why Baumann is so important.
Baumann is a study in contrast for 1937 Germany. He's a wealthy German Jewish industrialist, a decorated World War I veteran, a proud German patriot whose family history in Germany dates back 3 centuries.
And despite the rising persecution, he chooses to remain.
He's leveraging his status as a veteran and the fact that his business has been designated a strategically necessary enterprise by the right government. He clings to the belief that his loyalty and utility will protect him.
And that strategic necessity is the precise piece of high-value intelligence Szara is meant to find.
He tours the Baumann wire mill. Baumann is expansive and proud of his product. He reveals the key 302 austenitic stainless steel swage wire.
And he details its properties.
It resists corrosion, it is far stronger than standard molten steel wire, and the crucial phrase, won't stretch.
That won't stretch DD sounds technical, but its military implications are immense.
Absolutely. Baumann willingly provides the critical military value. He explains that this specialized swage wire is shipped exclusively to the Rheinmetall Company.
And it is used as the control cable for German heavy bombers.
The Dornier 17, the Heinkel 111, and the Junkers 86. These bombers are the very spearhead of the Wehrmacht's power.
And this is where Szara, the journalist, instantly becomes a high-value intelligence operative. He gets the production figure.
He gets the October 1937 production figure, 16,800 feet of this specialized wire.
And the sources reveal the required length per aircraft, 480 feet.
Szara mentally performs the critical calculation instantly. By dividing 16,800 feet by 480 feet per aircraft, he arrives at a precise, accurate figure for Reich monthly heavy bomber production.
Which is?
35 aircraft. This is information the GRU desperately needs to assess German military capabilities and strategic intentions. It directly influences Soviet defense planning.
The knowledge of 35 heavy bombers is worth more than 1,000 political dissertations to Moscow. It explains why Bloch's faction protected him.
It justifies his survival entirely. But amidst the technical details and high espionage, Szara meets Marta H.
Marta, 28, the daughter of Bowman's chief engineer. She isn't Jewish.
She was introduced by Baumann to balance the table, perhaps to demonstrate his factory's Aryan composition. She initially seems peripheral.
But during a late-night walk in the falling snow, an atmosphere that makes the world feel immensely private, something profound happens to Szara.
He sees her innocence, her kindness, and finds the first genuine, uncomplicated emotional connection he has had since the death of his wife. Szara, the cynical revolutionary, falls in love.
And his very first independent act as an agent is a betrayal for love. It defines the new man he is becoming.
When he filed his report with the Soviet embassy, he strategically delivers the highly valuable Baumann intelligence, the 16,800 feet of swage wire, perfectly.
But he entirely omits Marta's existence.
He intentionally erases her from the official NKVD narrative, attempting to protect her from the murderous apparatus by making her invisible to the state. This act of omission is profound. He trades intellectual independence for self-preservation, but then he risks that self-preservation for romantic love.
Szara is recalled to Moscow. He knows he cannot carry the Okhrana dossier into the lion's den.
So he needs an operational way to preserve his ultimate weapon.
What does he do?
He buys a massive romantic painting in Berlin, Huldigung der Naxos, and meticulously distributes the thick, frayed Okhrana papers across the back of the canvas, sealing them beneath the original backing cloth.
This is classical spy technique, hiding documents in plain sight, using a piece of harmless, easily transportable art as a sophisticated dead drop.
He is now operating like a seasoned intelligence officer, ensuring his ultimate evidence is preserved for future use.
Once he is safe, or at least temporarily protected in Moscow, Szara performs the intense, necessary intellectual work on the Okhrana dossier that he initially dismissed as boring bureaucracy.
He begins a mechanical chronological analysis, a chron, simply transposing dates, names, and former payments from the grayish paper onto clean sheets.
He realizes that copying was idiot's work.
Yet it is precisely this mechanical, relentless process of simply moving facts that allows the final, terrifying picture to emerge, bypassing his frustrated imagination.
And the final picture is, well, it's the most dangerous secret in the world, the stunning high-altitude revelation.
D.U. the lifelong agent provocateur, the criminal loathed by the revolutionary intellectual he worked alongside and systematically betrayed, the man nurtured by the Okhrana from the early 1900s, is none other than Yosef Vissarionovich Dugashvili.
The supreme leader.
Stalin.
Wait, let's just pause on this. This is the deep dive's core shock factor. The man who leads the Soviet Union, who is purging the old Bolsheviks for ideological purity and treason, was himself a paid Tsarist police agent.
Yes. The file reveals D.U. was the Okhrana's pet pig from 1906 to 1917. This explains why he received these buffered arrests and surprisingly short exiles.
4 months in Belov prison, 6 months in Solvychegodsk.
These brief detentions were strategic, ensuring he maintained his credibility as a revolutionary figure while continuing to deliver his comrades directly into the hands of the Tsar's police.
This changes everything. It reframes the entire nature of the purge. If Stalin knows this document exists, then the purge is not just about political power.
It's about erasing every single person who might have had historical knowledge of this secret or who might hold the evidence.
It turns the ideological struggle into a massive, desperate act of personal concealment by the dictator.
Imagine the power of this knowledge in 1938. The ideological foundation of the Soviet state rests on the myth of the flawless revolutionary. To reveal that the leader was a police spy is to pull the rug out from under the entire system.
It's a political nuclear bomb.
It is. And the fact that the document survived 20 years of revolution, civil war, and purges is itself an incredible historical accident.
So Szara is holding this bomb, and the counterfaction led by Bloch is ready to detonate it.
He is thrust immediately into the next phase of the scheme. He runs into Renate Braun and an American editor, Herbert Hull, at a crowded Moscow party.
Hull is a figure from high-profile U.S. liberal publications, providing the perfect cover for disseminating the information globally.
Hull and Braun reveal the full extent of the blackmail proposition. Szara will write an article for Hull's American magazine under a pen name, say, Boris Ivanov.
Tentatively titled, The Okrana's Mysterious Man.
The intention is blunt and terrifying. This is the counterfaction's ultimate weapon to check Stalin. We know what you did, and we can prove it. Now stop killing us, or we'll finish you.
It's an open declaration of internal war.
And Szara finally realizes his role. The long leash Bloch spoke of on the train. He was the disposable intellectual necessary to retrieve the file, analyze it, and write the devastating article. He is meant to be the hero who sacrifices himself to cure the nation.
But his priorities have shifted. He has Marta.
He spends that night walking the icy Moscow streets, realizing he no longer wishes to embrace martyrdom. His survival now depends on dodging not just the Georgian Kvost, but the idealism of his own saviors.
And the official counter to the Bloch-Braun faction comes via Szara's longtime NKVD friend, Sergei Abramov of the Foreign Department.
Abramov is a massive, somber man who uses the psychological weight of their relationship to conduct the interrogation. He conducts the debriefing not as a bully, but as a concerned comrade who wants to protect Szara.
Szara has to walk a razor-thin operational line here. He needs to satisfy Abramov's demands for intelligence while strategically protecting his two greatest secrets.
Marta and the DUBO file.
So he adheres perfectly to his defensive strategy. He omits Marta. He omits a full, gruesome truth of Kalidz's death.
But he perfectly delivers the high-value bomb and intelligence. The fact that 16,800 feet of specialized swage wire translates directly to 35 German heavy bombers monthly. He proves his operational value to Abramov's faction.
The depth of the intellectual analysis continues when Abramov takes Szara to a grimy hole in the wall for cream parfait, Vyazny.
Over dessert, Abramov analyzes the entire purge situation for Szara, outlining the impossible complexity of the internal struggle. He explores the conflicting theories that are circulating Moscow.
Is the purge merely a political battle between nationalist interests, the Georgian Kvost versus the rest of the Soviet bureaucracy?
Or is it a secret pogrom against Jews and intellectuals, as many outside idealists fear?
And Abramov presents the nuanced internal view, pointing out the complexity Stalin faces.
He notes that Jews often run the extraordinary matters section of the NKVD, and Stalin, despite his ruthlessness, cannot risk alienating the idealist foreign Jewry who are keen to support the Soviet Union in its fight against fascism.
The internal intelligence services are not a single machine,
but an ocean of competing, terrifying currents.
So Abramov's faction, recognizing Szara's high-value data and his dangerous proximity to the rival Bloch faction, decides on a solution.
Execution is too risky. Ignoring him is impossible.
The solution is full co-option.
They will make Szara truly nosh ours. He will become a fully protected NKVD operative, backed by the entire service, not just one transient clique. He must trade his independent existence for guaranteed protection.
And the final piece of instruction is the rejection of the DUBO blackmail plan.
Abramov dismisses the plan as utterly naive. He asks if Szara truly expects a Russian George Washington to emerge if Stalin were to fall.
He poses the terrifying pragmatic question, do you want to make Adolf Hitler happy?
The resulting chaos from Stalin's collapse would only benefit fascism. His final words are a demand for brutal maturity. Andrei Aronovich, you are 40 years of age. Perhaps it's time you grew up.
Szara must abandon his dangerous idealism and intellectual independence. He chooses discipline and survival.
Szara accepts his fate, but before his training begins, he attends a gathering in Moscow in March 1938, where the famous actor Pozny recites Alexander Blok's famous 1918 poem, The Scythians.
And this recital, in a room full of foreign community members and apparatchiks, acts as a chilling political framework for understanding the state's actions.
The poem itself is a brutal, timely warning to the West, delivered by a voice who knows the deep history of Russia. It declares Russia a sphinx who peers at Europe with hatred and with love, urging them to ally with the new Soviet state.
But the alternative is the threat that underpins Stalin's every action.
If the West refuses to ally, Russia will retreat into its vast thickets, the forests and Asiatic steppes, and neutrally watch with its narrow eyes, while the ferocious Hun, meaning the rising German fascism, destroys Europe.
The removal of opposition combined with the desperate need for critical military intelligence like the bomber production figures. The brutality Szara witnessed is framed within this worldview as a dark historical necessity for national survival.
So Szara endures the training designed to turn the intellectual into a soldier of the state. He learns codes, ciphers, forgery, and dead drops. a seemingly endless world of paper.
His intellectual life is replaced by the mechanics of espionage. He finds emotional comfort only in talking to his dead wife in code.
Following her quiet counsel, live a day at a time and to be kind.
The emotional reality of his life recedes. The memory of Marta, isolated in Berlin, becomes too perfect, like mirages.
A sign of their relationship's growing terrible distance.
By April 1938, he is formally placed. He is assigned to the Opel Network, which is part of the larger Rote Kapelle or Red Orchestra organization.
Operating across Brussels, Paris, and Berlin.
And here we see the dark hand of fate again. His position was opened due to a grim coincidence.
The Opel deputy, Guillaume, died in a random car crash outside Macon while racing to a clandestine meeting. Szara replaced a man removed not by a purge, but by a simple, arbitrary accident. This is the new reality of his life.
His new identity is established. He becomes A.A. Szara, Deputy Jean-Marc, assigned to the Opel Network. His new contact and resident is Captain I.J. Goldman.
Operating under the sophisticated cover identity of Stefan Leib, a scholarly, industrious owner of the map shop Cartes de le Monde in Brussels.
Szara is now truly Nash, officially a spy. He has traded his intellectual life for the dubious, lethal protection of the NKVD.
For you, the learner, listening to this deep dive, Szara's survival is an object lesson in espionage trade-offs. His life is determined by coincidence and fate, not ideology.
He achieves survival by delivering critical military intelligence, the Swagewire data, while simultaneously concealing his most vital discovery, the DWWII dossier, and his personal attachment, Marta.
The question for him, which we must consider, is whether the resulting life, built on the total betrayal of objective truth, the DWWII file, which he cannot reveal, and the protection of a carefully constructed lie, Marta's non-existence to the state, is truly a victory, or simply a continuous protected exile.
What a dense, dark journey through the sources. We began with a small favor on a tramp freighter off Ostend and ended with the fate of Europe tied up in Soviet internal rivalries and the details of German bomber production.
The two central tensions we uncovered are unforgettable. The stunning revelation that Stalin was the Okhrana's agent provocateur DWWII, and the incredibly high military value of the German Swagewire production figures provided by the brave, soon-to-be persecuted Dr. Baumann.
Szara's mission succeeds entirely on the level of state utility. He delivered the intelligence that mattered to Moscow's survival in the coming war.
In exchange, the intellectual revolutionary is made a full operative, trading his fierce independence for the dubious legal protection of the NKVD. He is now a soldier of the state, disciplined and trained in the cold world of paper and ciphers.
The sources leave us with a stark concluding thought about the reality of espionage. Accidents happen, random deaths open up necessary positions, like the Opel deputy Guillaume dying in a random car crash.
Szara learned that the only defense against the eternal, harrowing question of the Pre-WWII, why, is discipline. You cannot ask why, you must simply follow orders.
But if knowledge is truly power, Szara holds the ultimate weapon in the DWWII file, hidden in the frame of a painting in Berlin.
The question he now lives with, as a creature of the state that owns him and the intelligence community that protects him, is what he must do with that power. Should he heed Abramov's practical advice and burn the file, erasing the danger?
Or should he hold it, perhaps until the day he decides he has nothing left to lose, as the ultimate self-destructive insurance policy against the regime that both saved him and enslaved him? It is the most profound choice an agent can face.